mean the Quantum Journal? Yeah, because I write for the AI
Sorry,
Journal, or
the
I did.
quantum.
And then yeah, the Quantum Journal. Right now, the Quantum Journal is pretty technical. Frankly, it's in the process of changing over, so it's a little bit. Well, it's a much easier read for a business owner and even someone who's new to quantum who wants to understand quantum. But what I would say is you'll be able to apply some of the concepts in the Quantum Journal to your business because that's what we tried to make it into is basically a news aggregation site so people can figure out ways to utilize quantum for their business. And I'll give a couple use cases. I mean, we talked about it before, but as an example, we're taking on in beta a sports organization, and they want to figure out how to optimize their players to be able to get a couple more wins. All they need is 4 wins, and they're gonna be that much more happy as far as in the playoff hunt, etcetera. So, that's one thing that can be gleaned from the Quantum Journal. Or another one, as an example, F1. There's an F1 group we're trying to work with. There's only, whatever, 22. So it kinda narrows it down who we're trying to work with. But as an example, because F1 is really understanding, and much more so than the rest of the world, how to use quantum. Well, and if they can adopt quantum to help them, all they need is a couple of seconds off, a fraction of a second. They go from third to second, maybe even to first place. So, and a lot of the information is going to be gleaned in the Quantum Journal, meaning we're going to be having a lot of resources, a lot of tools, a lot of ideas that can help entrepreneurs going forward. And we, frankly, I'm going to tell you the reason I made that site. One, I thought the URL was important to have down the road. Number one. Number two, this is an idea for a business owner out there. Basically, now you can put together with AI, you could put together websites really quickly. So what I did is I threw up a website of basically a news aggregation site. Every morning, I want to read stuff about quantum, and so what I did is I threw up. Frankly, initially, I'm being very blunt here. I threw together a bunch of um, sites that I wanted to pick from and call and read through on a daily basis. And what happened is, well, wait a minute. All of a sudden, we started getting some leads to it for people who wanted to similarly read some of the things that I also wanted to read. So it's been twofold. I'm starting a site, interesting stuff that I find interesting. So all of a sudden, cool, it picks cool websites, cool journals, cool newsletters, all in one site, all in one spot, that being the Quantum Journal. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people have interest in some of the things I'm talking about. So we end up getting leads based on my reading of the day. So it's totally worked out. Also, I'm going to take one step further. I think that's such a good idea. More people should adopt that, by the way. But that also shows that quantum computing is growing. For some reason, we're getting 3,000 hits to that website a day. So somehow people think quantum's kind of cool. I know it sounds crazy.
No, I think there's definitely enough people that are into AI and then, hearing about quantum computing that are interested in it. So I think, I mean, like we've talked about before, you were kind of one of the first on the market for AI. You're definitely first on the market for this quantum computing and really pushing it and into the direction I think that it's going. So I love that. So if is there any parting thoughts before we close out that you would like to share with business owners, people who are in need financial help, and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, we, as you mentioned, I've been pretty far out as far as artificial intelligence goes now, quantum. Utilize technology to help you in your finances, in your taxes, in your estate planning, your asset protection. People don't use it, and it's blown me away. That's the reason I decided to write the book, because I wanted people to think that technology can help them to, lower their taxes, increase their net worth, utilize technology as your friend. I was just talking, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was talking to a tax provider, and he's still using paper, which it blows me away, and then also Excel to do taxes. That in itself is crazy. Technology is
Yeah.
such a tool that it can help, one, do your taxes, two, prognosticate what the tax liability is going to be, and then working backwards to lower the tax liability. It's worth it to use technology to help lower taxes, increase net worth, do an asset protect. The whole strategy of finances utilizing technology will help. I'm willing to bet you on that.
Well, and I think a lot of people probably are using paper because it's a controlled environment. Sometimes I know that when you get on Excel, if you're not in Excel, you know genius, you have to remember formulas, you have to remember this, you have to do all the things. Or if you get into a computer, like a, a computer system, you have like, I mean, it's, the different, especially when you're talking, coming from creative, you're talking about a technical site. Sometimes they're designed in a very user unintuitive way. And so with quantum computing, with AI, you just plop in your stuff and it does it all for you. You don't have to think about like where to put what that, what put this there. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I put the wrong number here. It just takes it all and it does it for you. So it's definitely something to look into if you haven't. If you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a creative, definitely check it out and check out modernmillions.ai on Amazon.com or go to Vast Solutions Group and check it out there. I am going to ask you one more question before we get this. What is your favorite AI right now that you're using? What model are you using, and which LLM
Okay.
model are there LLM models, different ones for quantum computing? Which one do you love there?
Yeah, good question. I say my favorite LLM model for people is the one that they're gonna use. Number 1, because I believe in artificial intelligence can help in so many ways, number 1. Number 2, I would say my favorite LLM model is the one that people put as much information into it as they feel comfortable, because garbage in, garbage out. The more information that they put in about themselves, their situation, therefore they're asking questions, how to optimize it, and then pull information out of it via prompts. That's the most important component, because you can't just ask vague questions. You get vague and incorrect answers. So that's my favorite model, the one that you feel comfortable enough using and putting information in. So therefore, the information being pulled out will be the best. We have our own model called Einstein. It's going to become antiquated here in a little bit. But what I would say is, I love our own model. It's built on this thing called Vertex, which is the wholesale portion, if you will, of Google. But what I would say on top of that is, if we don't put in good questions, we don't put in good, what sometimes they'll call it system instructions. Well, the information that's pulled out of it will be ridiculous. So let's just say, as an example, I have one LLM with no information about me. Well, that's going to be a horrible model. But let's say I put in a bunch of information in another LLM model. That LLM model will be the better one. So it really depends on the circumstances. But in general, you could also look at benchmarks. There are benchmarks out there to figure out which categories are important for you, to figure out which LLM of the day is better in your circumstance. By the way, they seem to change on a daily basis. So again, I'm going to defer to my comment, whichever one that you use to put in all your information, therefore pulling good information out. That's the most important one and best one that you can utilize.
I love that. I love that. And it's very, very true. So, well, thank you all for joining us on this podcast. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you go out there and start learning about AI. If you haven't, just take, 5 minutes a day and play with it. And just start thinking about quantum computing and checking out
Yeah.
all that Kenner is doing at Vast Solutions Group and also vastq.com, which is his more quantum computing website. And we will see you next week where we will ask Kenner, what are you thinking? We'll talk to you later.